Bastrop, Texas is well known for its rich history, natural beauty, and an authentic vibe that you just can't find anywhere else. The City of Bastrop is proud to bring you Overheard at City Hall, a podcast aimed at bringing you, our community, inside the walls of City Hall to get to know the hardworking men and women of the City of Bastrop who wake up every day to serve you, our citizens. Join us as we discuss the many topics that on any given day may be overheard at City Hall. Hi, Bastrop. We are here today for the official City of Bastrop podcast, Overheard at City Hall. We are joined by our City Manager, Paul Hofmann, and I am very excited to today have him in the hot seat. Paul?
Hey.
Are you nervous?
Should I be?
Yes.
Is this like a coup attempt or something like that?
I have officially commandeered the podcast, so I'm going to need your hat.
Taking over communications is the first step in the takeover.
Well,
right.
There you go. Done. Check.
Okay.
I am excited to have you here today because we have watched you interview so many of our city directors and partners. And today we get to talk about you, which I'm excited about.
Okay.
Over this last year, I have really gotten to know you and your lovely wife, and I am so impressed by you as a person and as a leader.
Well, you're off to a great start.
When do we fill out my evaluation paperwork is what I want to know. So thank you for coming here today, and I'm excited for our community to get to know you a little bit better. So
Okay, cool.
Okay, question one, and I have not given him any of these questions, much to his chagrin. So you just completed your first year on the job, and from my standpoint, it felt like a whirlwind, but I wanted to know, how do you think it went?
Okay. Well, I'm still waiting for the City of Bastrop slow season. Apparently we don't have one here.
We don't
right?
believe in that.
Right,
No.
don't believe in that. I think it's gone really, really well. I did go into the job hoping to accomplish a few things, and for the most part, I think we've been able to check those off the list. And no, I feel really good about my first year here. This isn't the first time that I've come into a new community, being the new city manager, and that first year is always busy. I think that one of the things I am fairly adept at is not taking too long to assess the strengths and the weaknesses of the organization and to implement some things along the edges to make things a bit better. And as I've said before, feel really, really blessed to be in a place where the team was already very well filled out, and the team was filled with good, honest, hardworking public servants, and I didn't feel like I needed to come in and give any real speeches about the honor of public service, or even worse, had to make any really hard changes at the staff level. No, we feel really good about the first year and the relationships we've been able to establish and the friendships made.
So you have an enormous amount of experience. You've been doing this for a long time.
I'm really old.
Really, really old. Although yesterday you used the word woke appropriately, and I was really proud for a moment.
Okay, thank you for that.
And you have held some big leadership positions in some really well-run cities. What I find we do almost once a week, though, is we hear you say, well, this is a new one for me. And I just find that very funny and very appropriate, that because, I believe Bastrop to be a very special place, and we do special things here. So
Right.
Do you have any big lessons you learned in your first year?
Sure. Lessons I've learned in the first year. Confirmation that every community is different, and it is smart for a city manager not to come into a new job thinking they have everything figured out, and that really is a challenge for a more experienced person like me. And I talk about this with some of my younger and more experienced colleagues. Right? We we're constantly growing and learning, and guys like me have we are tempted, if you will, to fall into patterns, into routines, and to too much rely upon prior experiences. Bastrop is unique in a lot of ways. The level of the community involvement is different. How downtown and Main Street fits into everything and how it should fit into everything is a bit different as well. The growth isn't. There's a lot of communities in Texas that are growing rapidly, but very frankly, the last two communities I was in before Bastrop weren't growing at this kind of pace. I've been in rapidly growing places before, and so it's a very busy place. It's a busy place for me and you and Trey and every department director. Everybody is super busy.
Yeah.
And it's not a joke. There isn't any real downtime. And I think in my prior position, we all had more of an opportunity to step back and assess. And I do think that was a well-run city too. And we were able to insert times in the schedule where we were able to take stock of things.
Yeah.
That's been difficult here, just because if you stop, then you're falling behind and something's falling between the cracks, and we're not being as responsive as we should be, and that's not good. And so that's been an experience. If maybe that's an answer to your question.
I want to know, do you have any big plans for year 2? And if so, can you assign them to Trey?
The difficult assignments, I'm going to do my best to equitably divide those out.
Just keep the fun ones coming this way.
Right, okay.
Please.
Right. Yeah, well, Trey's able to take on a lot, thankfully.
Just a few more.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll keep that in mind.
So for me, I did not start in local government. I came from the legal world, corporate world. I was impressed by the amount of strategic plannings that cities do. And even comparing Bastrop to other cities, as I meet people at conferences and through associations, I'm impressed by the amount of strategic planning Bastrop does. So can you talk to our community a little bit about the strategic planning, like the comprehensive plan, the master plans we do, the focus areas, just how all that works and what that does to guide us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I was attracted to this place and this job largely because of how the elected officials here, this mayor and council in particular, how much serious stock they put into that subject of strategic planning. And as an applicant for the job a year ago, dove into that, learned about it. I think one of the reasons why I was selected for the job is because I think I have a history of bringing effective, practical, strategic planning kind of thinking to communities as well, and was able to bring some of those approaches that I've learned to adopt over the last several years to what was already a great planning and thinking environment. And so here in Bastrop, the fundamental foundational planning we follow is from the comprehensive plan, and a real danger for communities. Every community goes through a comprehensive planning process every few years. That's not unique to Bastrop. What's, I think, unique to Bastrop and other well-run cities with strong leadership is we don't let that plan just sit on the shelf. And one of the ways we make it real and practical is we put that out in front of the city council every year, and we ask council to consider, okay, so for this next few years, what are your big priorities? And in Bastrop, that's articulated in the form of focus areas. And I just love that word focus. I mean, with everything, there's so many variables, and as we said before, we're super busy, and a challenge for people like you and me in our jobs is how do we focus, and what do we focus on? And everything we do ought to relate back to those focus areas in a real, practical, and accountable and reportable way. And so I think we do that here very, very well, and that's actually pretty cool. And I think that when we're able to present back to the city council and community in, again, practical and real ways, here's what the staff team is doing that helps achieve those focus area objectives, and this is how we're allocating resources to that. That's accountability at work. That's comforting, and I'm a bit old school in that way. It's not my job to come into what we do every day with my own agenda. Right? I've got my own way of getting things done, and that's what our job is, right? To take these big picture objectives and figure out the best way to get it all done. But the beauty of following that plan in those focus areas, and the comforting part to the community, is that you don't have non-elected administrators like you and me making up our own deal.
That's right.
We don't make it up as we go. We're following council priorities established in a very transparent and democratic decision-making process, and we can point to all that.
So I've been part of several organizations, and they all seem to have a list of priorities or whatever they call them. But I have never been part of an organization that so closely ties their work to those priorities. So much so that even our quarterly report we push out is divided into those 9 priorities.
Right.
And so we often talk about them when a new project comes up, when something comes to the table, we pull them out and we say, where does this fit? Where does this fit in our larger comprehensive plan? What of our priorities is this going to push forward? So that has been really, for me, impressive as an organization, just how much we really work through that strategic thinking to make sure that we are being successful for our community.
Right.
So I've really enjoyed that. You know, we say we tie everything to the 9 focus areas. We love the 9 focus areas. And so this year, we allowed council during our pre-budget planning session to review them.
Absolutely. And that will be what we do with them every year.
Right.
And you deserve a lot of credit, you and your team, for getting that quarterly report produced. That was a new initiative,
right.
And it took a tremendous amount of a rethinking how we report progress here to pull that off. And there's still some rough edges around that whole process and the final product, but I appreciate that council's been appreciative and impressed, I go ahead and use that word, by the quality and the quantity of the information they get. I struggle with the quantity part because it's a really big report.
Yeah,
and
up to about 75 pages.
Right, but chock full of great information, and while it's big and there's a lot of volume there, it's a great reference document.
It is.
And that's the idea. It ought to serve as a reference document to answer any question about what the city's doing
Right.
and why.
It's our report card.
It's our report card. You know, one of the things we say is that if it's important, it
Goes in the
belongs
quarterly report.
in the quarterly report, right?
And I do think it's an impressive testament to the amount of work that our city produces for the amount of staff we have.
Yep, I think so too.
And I think it's a positive report. I don't want to sugarcoat the whole thing, because I think it's important for our community to know that behind closed doors, there are always things that we're saying. This is not as successful as it should be. We need to make this more. We need to, increase the excellence of service on this point.
Right.
We are always looking for where to improve. We will never be done doing that.
Nope.
But overall, I think the quarterly report really shows that the city is really caring for and taking care of our community. So it's a
think
nice
so too.
thing.
Yep, thanks.
So speaking of the community, I read something the other day that a city is only as strong as its community. And, I got the butterflies when we talk about our community.
Right.
They're my favorite. They're my friends. They're my family. They're the most special part about Bastrop. But as a community member, if someone wants to get engaged, if they have ideas, if they have passion, if they want to be part of forming the choices that we as a city make, how can they do that? Where do they start?
It's almost overwhelming, all of the opportunities there are for folks to start.
Yeah.
Right. And part of what we've done for the last year is to make that less overwhelming and create an umbrella, if you will, over that whole big subject of community engagement. I mean, your role and your title, Assistant City Manager for Community Engagement, which we created just a few months ago and put you into that role, is all part and parcel of how do we answer that question, and how do we, in sort of a structured way, if you will, provide good information to people so they know how they fit in to community engagement, either as individuals, but also pretty importantly, those natural networks out there, those already existing community groups, and that's another special and unique thing about Bastrop is how many nonprofits there are out there that are part of that overall service delivery mix. The assets that we work in such close partnership with, like the Opera House and the museum and the Arts Center, those, and not just those, the civic groups, the youth sports leagues, local faith groups, right? They're all part of that fabric, that network of community service providers. And it's not ever our job to over-insert ourselves into their mission and what it is they do, whether that's direct service delivery or planning or organizing a community event. That's not the vision, that we're making decisions and we're directly involved in all of that. But the vision is that we're helping connect the dots in how the assets relate to tourism and overnight stays at the hotels and everything that Visit Bastrop is about, right? Yeah. And that when we're trying to communicate, and we've got important messages we're sending out, that it's not just us, right? And that we are able to take advantage of those, again, like I said before, already existing networks.
Really
right?
amplify.
And really amplify.
Sure.
But more directly to answer your question, people can get involved in any of those groups.
That's
More directly associated with the city of Bastrop is the number of boards and commissions, the advisory boards that the mayor and then confirmed by the city council appoints. And a lot of opportunities there. And another thing we've tried to do this last year is make sure we're doing a good job of providing good staff level support to each of those advisory boards.
Absolutely. And I think kind of your first sentence, that's why we have an entire division of the city that's really, committed to community engagement. It's as easy as giving me a call or giving our community impact manager a call and tell us your passions, and we will introduce you to the
find a spot for you.
Yeah, that's right. Introduce you to the people where you can fulfill those.
Right.
So
and that kind of spirit, it really doesn't exist everywhere. I mean,
right.
you work very closely with the Main Street Advisory Board, and for whatever it's worth, I am so impressed with the spirit and the energy and the intelligence that's behind all of the work of those various committees that you guys have created to actually get stuff done. Mm-hmm. It's really cool.
They are in an incredible group of people who really, really love our community and our downtown, and I'm constantly impressed by them.
Right.
So what if someone has a concern? What if they have speeding on their street, they have a pothole? How do people
we don't want to make that hard, right?
Right.
And we can probably get better at this. Mm-hmm. We've rolled out a few months ago, of course, the MyGov system, and that's I think people most associate that with the planning and development and inspection process, and that is the heart of what that system's about. But there's also a pretty cool application of that, where people can go in and efficiently let us know that something is wrong online, and we've got real live people dedicated to paying attention to those messages and making sure we're responding to them.
Right.
And people are using it.
They are.
That in the last quarterly report we just referenced, I think there were almost 800 entries for that 3-month reporting period, and we were able to give the City Council a report on just how well we're doing in checking those items off and responding to them, and I think Council really appreciated that. And so hopefully people can go through our website, and we're always working on our website and trying to make that easy to navigate, but I'm a pretty accessible guy. My email address is out there. My phone number is out there. I do field calls from citizens saying, hey, there's something going on I don't like, or there's a pothole or something. You mentioned speed humps. I heard a citizen ask about speed humps this morning. We have a policy for that. We have a process for
a procedure
that guides the decision making on that. And so it's being responsive is like rule number one.
Priorities. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so and I think we do a pretty decent job of that.
Sure.
Again, and I didn't have to create that culture. I have the team led by Curtis Hancock in the Public Works Department is super responsive. The team at the Planning Department is super responsive. We've part of that reorganization plan. Tracy Chavez, who for the most part sits at the front desk at City Hall, a big part of her job is to field those complaints and concerns as well, and make sure they're distributed to the right problem solver. And we can always get better at that, but I think we do a pretty decent job there.
Sure. No, and our internal request manager through MyGov is very impressive. So you can go to our website, cityofbastrop.org. On the homepage, have a concern, click that, and you can put anything in there. And the great thing is then it's in our system, and we can make sure it gets closed out, and that we've communicated with you. And if computers aren't your thing, just call the front desk. And we actually put it in MyGov to track it too, so we'll put it in for you if you don't want to get on the website. But it's pretty easy if you have a concern. And just call and talk to one of our directors, assistant city manager, that's what we're here for, is to serve. So I have one last question for you, and then we'll wrap this up. I believe one of the first things I said to you when you arrived was that Bastrop was a magical place, and I looked forward to you being able to discover that on your own. And I think you told me that magic wasn't real. And you were very dry about it, which that is, to be fair, your sense of humor I've now found out. So since that time, you have said Bastrop is a magical place a few times. So what do you think makes Bastrop a magical place?
Okay, well, I think you've worn me down, and so I use the word.
You got tired, yes,
right.
It happens often.
Still not sure magic is real, but I get your point. And Bastrop is a pretty cool and special and unique place, and for all the reasons that the watchers of this podcast already know, it's a lot about community.
Yes.
It's a lot about the strength of this terrific, well-motivated, hearts in the right place, very competent staff team that I was blessed to have here first day on the job, and appreciate that about my predecessor, that she was able to build that kind of team, and I don't take that for granted or take it lightly, and the fact that we know we're special, right? It's actually built into the comprehensive plan and the focus areas that we talked about earlier, right?
My favorite focus area. Yeah, uniquely Bastrop.
Uniquely Bastrop, authentic Bastrop is another phrase that we use a lot.
Yeah.
And in a way, it adds pressure to the job, right? with everything that's going on and everything we have to do and all of the growth and making sure we're prepared for the growth, right? Is to not screw that up.
And protect what's important to us.
Protect what's special and important. And it's so cool about the comprehensive plan. And then when the city went through that very impressive process of updating and rewriting the development codes, right? That was at the heart of it, is that we want to keep Bastrop as special as it is. And we know we're going to grow.
That's right.
And we know there's going to be pressures associated with that growth, and
Absolutely.
we know growth is a good and inevitable thing, right? We know all those things, but we can be careful,
That's
and
right.
we can even be a little, if I think this is the right word, selective.
That's right.
Okay, I'm going to get myself into trouble here. Property. I'm a big believer in property rights and all of that, and I think the system supports all that, and the people who work on all those subjects support all that too, but not every proposal matches up with those high standards.
That's
and
right.
It's our job to manage that and make those kinds of recommendations to the policymakers, and that's cool in and of itself, that we know we're the most historic community in Texas,
Yep.
right? And we honor that, we celebrate that. Everyone in the community does, and I think you and I talk about this a lot. As we grow, we have a burden to make sure those newcomers, those new residents, have
Right.
the opportunity to learn about that. And our first interaction with them can't be just to hook them up to utilities and make sure the trash gets picked up.
Yeah.
But
we want them to fall in love with Bastrop.
We do.
The way we live
because, if we don't give them that opportunity to get engaged in a real way, that's the road to losing what's special, to have the community no longer think it's special.
Right. They are
right?
the future stewards.
They are
of
the
Bastrop.
future stewards. And
That's right.
and our future bosses, and
Yeah.
so we want them to, again, have that opportunity to get to know us, right? Get to know the community.
I will tell you, as the person in the organization who leads really the focus area of uniquely Bastrop, authentically Bastrop, I am so thankful for the really difficult process the City Council went through in writing the Building Bastrop Code. And that is because it is really written from a place that we understand that growth is inevitable. And that is a really great place to be in, because it allows us to be very choosy and make sure that development coming in is high quality, that they're putting in high quality infrastructure, that it matches the ideals of our community, and that it's going to be something something that we're going to be proud to have in our little tiny 9 square miles 50 years from now. And so I quite often, I go to conferences around the U.S. and people come up to me and say, "You're from Bastrop. You have the Building Bastrop Code." People have heard about it
They sure
because it was really put in place to protect our community, and that's what we're doing. There's a lot of land in Texas. If people want to take their development elsewhere, that's all right for me, because the development that we are allowing is really a testament to our love for the community.
And we've had some recent success stories in that regard. Absolutely.
Well, Paul, thank you for letting me put you in the hot seat today.
It was fun.
I really appreciate it and want to sincerely thank you for being a servant leader in our organization. Our staff has learned a lot from you, and I know that they will happily allow me to speak for them. I personally have learned a lot from you. We look forward to many years of learning a lot from you, and really are thankful for your vision to help take the city to our next level of excellence. So thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.